can't do this without a candle today. It's just not going to work. Today's scent is going to light, first of all. It is Spill the Tea, Sipping on Deets, Masala Chai, and Chit Chat from Lunar Landings in Newport, Oregon. I love these candles. Not sponsored. I have like 8 subscribers. There are no sponsorships here, but it is a company that I love, and it's also relevant to today's topic. So today I wanted to talk about decentering men from a standpoint of the things that we love, the things we talk with our friends about, and the artists we support. If you haven't been here before, which is probably everyone, because like I said, I have 8 subscribers. Love you guys. Hi, I'm Vera Lee. This is my brand new little baby YouTube channel, and I am figuring it out and bringing you along with me. I'm a small business owner. I'm a social media strategist. I have been since 2019, and I'm actually growing my business Instagram account from zero right now. I started from scratch, and I'm showing everybody how I'm doing that. So if you want to see it, follow me along on Instagram. If you're more here for the woodsy fairy tale, whimsy type stuff, I'm an Oregon girly. I live near the Oregon coast and in the forest, essentially. I'm in apartments, but it's Oregon, so it's forest. It's lovely. And I share about that a lot on Instagram as well at Seaside Fairy Tale. That's my personal account, so you won't see, a post every day or anything, but you will get to see me being me and a lot of my dogs and my cat. Anyway, if you're watching this in real time, Taylor Swift just announced a new album, and I'm thrilled. And also really excited and surprised at the way that people are having discussions about her in comment sections right now. Everybody is so quick to jump and hate on her. Honestly, it's ridiculous. But I'm not condoning it. I'm saying I get it, to be clear. I would defend her on this. I would. A lot of people say, I don't want to defend what anyone's doing. No, we're going to stand on business here and be with our girl who's an artist, who's a woman, who's doing some amazing stuff in the world, who's an actual human being. And I want to just talk about this. So I'm very strongly what's happening is genocide right now, and you're not someone's gonna die on this hill. Apparently a lot of people, before anyone wakes up to the reality. And I'm learning to speak up in ways that are helpful, but I'm also kind of learning that just shaming myself on social media or reposting stuff that I haven't actually verified, that I don't know is true, and I'm not saying what's happening is a lie or it's fake or any of that. I'm not trying to push that agenda, but I'm saying I'm learning that if you're serious about activism, if you're serious about making a difference in the world with your voice, with your vote, with your, the things that you share. Hold on, my cat is climbing on the bookshelf. Oh, he just got up there. I have a toy that's his that I don't let the dogs touch, and he just climbed up there and very gently grabbed it. I'll try to put a picture for you guys in the video somewhere. Just so gently grabbed it and then hopped down. Cute. Okay, anyway, if you're trying to do good in the world, you do more good generally by being part of a movement that already exists. There are people who have already been creating momentum around a message and building a structure for actually delivering care and information in a way that is not only sustainable, but also, true and actually going to be effective, going to make a difference. It's so hard. It's so hard to start from absolutely nothing and get people interested in a cause. And just shouting it from the rooftops, even if they agree with you or even if they don't and you change their mind, that's one person and it does ripple, and I do think those things are really important. But at the end of the day, a lot of people really upset is not going to be as effective as a few people focused, if that makes sense. So movements that are already working, or I'm trying to think of the word, coalitions is kind of the word I'm thinking, but groups that are already doing the good out there, that are already, aware of the problem, didn't just now become aware and start learning how to talk about it to family and friends. That's great. But if you want to create real social change, those movements, you need those people. You need to be backing them and learning how to be an effective activist. One example of this is how we're talking about doing airdrops for food in Gaza. And when you hear that a country of people is being starved, of course your first thought is like, get them food. Like, what do we have to do? Like, we will drop food on them. Like, how do we get this to them? But if you step back and think about it, this doesn't work for a few reasons. They already had distribution channels in place effectively distributing food through that country, and they were blocked off. First of all, they were blocked off. There was food waiting on one side of a barricade while people were starving on another. That's like, it's being guarded with guns. That's the situation. When you do airdrops, one thing that you're doing that is not helpful is you're reinforcing that those blockages that created this, like this famine and this starvation in the first place, are okay. You're not forcing them to be stopped, first of all. The next thing is the airdrops were dangerous. These food distribution channels had systems in place to protect people from each other, because when you're starving and you're dying and your child is dying, you're going to do whatever it takes to get that food. And that might create some chaos. Can you see how that would be a problem? So say food does get dropped and it doesn't land on anyone and hurt them, or it doesn't damage anything important, or it doesn't block any important areas or ways. Say that your drop is well done and actually makes it. You're creating that, you've seen the Hunger Games, right? When you do that, you're creating that situation where all the goods you need are right in the middle, and you have the 12 people that are fighting for their lives trying to get it. You create a bloodbath, right? It's not helpful. That's not going to work. And this is where your first instinct, you want to help, you want to care, might seem like the best idea, but people who have been at it longer know that it's not. There was also the factor of that the famine was at a point now where people were starving to the point that if they eat their food, not this is current, are so starved, their bodies are so not used to consuming food and breaking it down, that even if they ate, it wouldn't be enough to save their lives. They need medical help to be able to actually consume the nutrients and survive at this point. They're that ill from not having food. So again, the airdrop wouldn't be the solution. It might look like, oh, we tried, but it's more like performative action at this point than actually doing good for these people. And that sucks. It is. And I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just trying to point out a way to look at activism differently. Another example of this that's a little bit less gut-wrenching and heartbreaking and a little closer to home here, at least where I live, is what's going on in Texas. So I don't know if you saw it, and I don't know all of the words. I'm not a news channel here, and this whole thing is not going to be about this. We're going to a couple more minutes of this, and then we're moving on to Decentering Men and Taylor Swift. But can't believe I'm saying those words. Anyway, so the thing with Texas, so Republicans were going to change the districts, the zoning of voters in Texas, because the majority is Republicans right now. They would win the vote if it went to a vote. They would go and basically cherry pick. I don't know if cherry pick is the word. I'm saying things I've heard now. But they were going to rezone the districts. They were going to pick and map out a line. So the districts might be already, in areas that make sense if you're looking at a map, right? That you have these districts. They're going to cut out and draw weird little shapes to make sure that they catch the right neighborhoods with the right voters, so that the majority is their party, so that then their party has more votes and is able to vote more on the side that they want, effectively keeping them in power. The Democrats in that state did something to stop it. They literally all left the state so that the meeting to pass those votes couldn't be had. And people are saying all kinds of things about this, all kinds of things. But one of the big things going around was like, people are saying you should be doing your job. Look at you abandoning your posts. That they are doing their job. The thing is that they are taking their job seriously. They're taking their duty to the people they represent seriously, and not playing into a system that is cheating what they were actually designed and built to do. And if you're just looking at the very surface level, like you're just barely starting to learn how these politics work and how they play out, you might not see that. So this isn't meant to be belittling. I'm learning. I'm really, really new, and this is what I'm learning about being new. But I'm learning that it's important that I pay attention to people who have been at this for a lot longer than me, and that I learn from them, and I am able to kind of take notes. And it's up to me, spending the energy to learn to speak out and scream from the rooftops on Instagram is not going to be as effective as spending that same amount of energy, right? Because we only have so much time and energy in the day. It's not as effective as spending that same energy learning what's going on in my local government, learning what different options I have for voting, what there even is to vote for. A couple of years ago, I thought I was super political because I voted for president, you know, like in just like the main election, Trump's first round. And yeah, now I realize like there's so many smaller things that go up to that, and it's in those smaller things that we vote for essentially the people who are going to represent us and vote for the president, and it matters a lot. And yeah, I'm still learning about all of it, but that takes so much time and that takes so much energy. And rather than trying to expose myself online and trying to get over the fear of being criticized by my family in a really public and kind of traumatizing way at times, I could actually use that same energy to get involved with local, you know, grassroots organizations. I could learn what's going on in my area. I could also pay attention to who's vulnerable in my area, what voices are not being heard in my local government where I have the most impact and influence with my voice, and learn to speak up about those things. And something I found that I didn't expect is that those things are a lot less controversial, and it kind of brings people into the conversation who might want to say like, oh, politics is far away, it's too big for me, it's not important. And bringing people into that conversation rather than pushing them away with shame and hostility has just been something that I found is really, it's different. It hits different. I see it ripple differently. I don't think that speaking up on Instagram is bad or wrong, of course. I think it's awesome that we're normalizing getting political, having these opinions, learning more, and being able to have discussion about it instead of it all being whispers behind closed doors and something as secret as like what we get paid, which also shouldn't be secret. But yeah, that's where I'm at. That's what I've been learning. Anyway, so when it comes to Taylor Swift, and this is such a long way to get to this, but it's been a lot on my mind lately. I've been kind of back and forth in how much of a Taylor Swift fan I am, and I'm talking about this not for my identity so much as because I keep hearing Me Too about this. So I know it's a lot of us. So let's talk about it. Let's have a moment and talk about if we feel it's ethical to be supporting Taylor Swift, if we're mad at her for not speaking out publicly against Gaza and Palestine, or for Palestine, against what's going on in Gaza. If we think that she's destroying the planet with her merch, like having a lot of merch. Let's talk about these things as people, like just you and me. Like here, I'm gonna tell you what I really think. And you know, you can't really cancel me. I have 8 followers. But hopefully you'll like being able to have these discussions, even if you don't agree with me, and we can chat in the comments, we can chat on Instagram. Like, I just think that we should be talking about it instead of just, like, you know, shaming ourselves in our own head or shaming each other out loud in comment sections, acting like nobody's human and just, like, being done with someone completely because we disagreed with something they said one time. I don't know. I think there are times when that's appropriate, but maybe this isn't one of them. So, I saw a reel on Instagram. I'm using a reel strategy of posting a lot of reels basically to grow my Instagram account from 0 to hopefully 1,000 followers in my first 30 days. And I see a lot of reels. I see a lot of reels. I'm getting distracted because the cat's trying to get on the bookshelf again. Don't do it. No, get down. Lanik, get down. Go. The way he's staring into my eyes right now, like, are you gonna make me? Down. Get down. Boy, I will make you. Go. We got some protections here, so he will stay off the counter. Okay, so here's the thing. The reel that I saw that kind of made me want to talk about this in this way was actually directed at motherhood, which I'm not a mother. I have pets. I've got a long history of miscarriages that is actually hard for me to talk about, and I think we'll get into it one day, but today is not that day. And at this point, I feel very grateful to have the life that I have and not have children. I'm appreciating the way that my life has gone currently, which is very much a relief after where I used to be. But anyway, the post said something along the lines of like, I was like, one day it hit me watching my kids grow that I am also just a woman in her 30s learning how to be human for the first time. And it just really hit me. Like, it gave me pause for a moment, and I realized, like, I'm obsessing over if I'm doing things right, if I'm being ethical in my decisions, if I'm participating actively in the wrong way, if I'm not being as helpful as I could, if I'm damaging the causes that I care about because I'm ignorant and I'm new to this and I'm learning. And, you know, like in Avatar, when she's mad at him for Avatar with the blue people, not Avatar with the beautiful buffalo. When she's mad at him for like being a baby and making noise in the forest and causing all these animals to come after him, and she says, you're a baby, you're like a child. I feel like that. And when I saw that post, it made me think, like, I'm over here worrying about if I'm doing the right thing all the time. And sometimes it just hits me like, wait, actually, I am just a person. I'm a human being learning how to do life and overcoming all of my unique struggles and living with all of my, again, unique struggles and learning to, you know, compensate for my weaknesses, utilize my strength, understand how to be present and create a life in a world that is kind of built to take a lot of my time and energy. And yeah, all that. So it really hit me that I'm just a person. And that went deeper for me as I hit it. Like, shortly after I saw that, I saw the Taylor Swift announcement with the album, you know, with the locked album cover. I still haven't seen it yet as of recording this. I think it's coming out probably about the time I get done here, actually. But I saw that like shortly after, and it just made me think like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, she is, at the end of the day, just an artist in her 30s, being human for the first time. And she's got so many people looking up at her, people looking down at her, people having all of these opinions about every single thing that she does. And at the end of the day, she's me with more money and a lot more views. You know, like, she's just like us. She's a person. She's a human being. And yes, she's a human being with a lot of resources, with money, with tools, with support, and with a massive platform. But think about, at least for me, I think about like how nervous I am about doing the wrong thing with my voice, and how terrifying it has been, and how exhausting. I mean, I'm doing it anyway, but how exhausting to tiptoe out of my shell and start making those shares and speaking up and learning to have any impact at all, without being just paralyzed by the fear of being seen doing that, by fear of the backlash, by, you know, even just the couple of mean comments that I get now and then, you know, how crippling that can be. Imagine that on a scale of over 3 million people. Like, and in the age you are now, like, you're probably around her age no matter what, if you're watching this video, right? Like, imagine that in the age you are now, that many people watching you. Because even with her money, with her support, with all of the resources that she had, she didn't go and develop to be some 300-year-old wise woman. She's a mastermind, but she's a human being. And that just made it a lot. That diffused a lot of my tensions around what she's doing. I do have opinions about the overconsumption that I think that her brand really encourages. I wish that she showed more care for the planet. That is one thing that does really disappoint me. Yeah, it does. At the same time, her fans and the people that she's talking to are people that are going to be buying it anyway. At the same time, I hear myself saying that, and it's just like, well, nothing's going to change if nothing changes. And she could stop selling us 500 different versions of everything. Physical copies of plastic that's going to be on this planet for way too long. That does bother me. It disappoints me. But at the end of the day, I don't know, because in my marketing business, I still, I know that AI use is hard on the planet. I know that it uses a resource. I know that it negatively impacts vulnerable people. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's okay. And I still kind of went through the process of recognizing, at least in my specific case with what I'm teaching people to do, that if they feel they need AI, I think that it's the lesser of two evils in a way, if they're in a situation where they really need it. And hear me out on this, because I feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm going slow because I'm thinking as I do. This is something that I'm actively reassessing a lot. And I feel gross saying it. But here's kind of the philosophy that gave me that perspective in the first place, just so you can see the wheels turning in different areas that we have to think about. So my business, what I'm helping people to do is create passive digital income sources. So you sell a digital product that helps solve a problem at a really accessible rate to many people. It doesn't create more physical waste. It's not plastic. It's not a physical product. It's not wasteful on the planet. I'm also teaching tools that are really green, that look into, like, if you have a website, where is that data being hosted? How is it being hosted and stored? How are those servers cooled? Where are they cooled? Who are they impacting? Like when you use a digital tool, when you use a YouTube scheduler, or even just using YouTube, or when you use a social media account, all of that information has a physical location somewhere on this planet. And if we don't see it, it's probably right? It's probably impacting people who are more vulnerable and less empowered and less privileged than we are in our society, our social structure, and our global structure right now. So I get that that's an issue. And I'm helping people to do this with the goal of having them get out of the 40+ hour work week. And this is where it comes into me, is I think it's worth it, is because I believe that the 20 or so water bottles that they're going to use up, and this doesn't acknowledge the land use and the people. It doesn't, and I understand that. And if you have thoughts, please tell me, because I do want to know more. But here's my picture right now, so you can see the whole picture I have. Gosh, it's so hard to say, because it feels wrong. But anyway, I'm trying to get people from having to work 40+ hours to not, to being able to actually live their life instead of just being a cash cow for the 1%. And they make money off of, right? Like, the 1% is, they've diversified their assets, right? They know how to manage their wealth. So they not only own giant, massive companies, but they're also, they've invested their money. They've invested money, and their money is making money for them. And the investments that they've put that money into for that to happen are in the food industry, the agriculture industry. They might have a stake in our power, in our water. Somebody makes money off of everything we need to survive. So, just the basics. Also taxes, taxes come back around. We've seen, especially during this administration, more than ever, we've seen what happens with tax dollars and who they end up going and benefiting, how the taxpayer money gets distributed throughout the country. I'm not saying I'm against it, especially as someone with a chronic illness. I think it's great that we could all pay into universal health care. That would be lovely. I would really appreciate that. And I think a lot of other countries are doing a really great job with that. I'm not anti-taxes, but I am anti-having my taxes go to someone's billionaire best friend and all of their little minions who are out there kidnapping people's family members and, paying off their student loans and whatnot for them, while making massive cuts to health insurance and to Indigenous people's protections and to environmental protections and to state parks that are supposed to be all of ours. I think that's not okay. Anyway, when we work 40+ hours a week and we stay burnt out and we stay broke, we are exhausted, right? We're cut off from the people that we need. We don't have community. We don't have the energy to build it or sustain it, even though we want it and we value it. It's just hard because we're exhausted, right? We're exhausted all the time. We can't afford anything. It's expensive to go do everything, especially if the national parks go, what's left that's free to do with your friends? Libraries are getting hurt too, and they're an amazing place. my time spent being homeless really taught me to appreciate libraries and to see how incredible they are. I would not be where I am today. I would be in a really dark situation, I think, if I hadn't had libraries. So yeah, a lot of points to consider there. But the main thing that I'm thinking is that when people don't have to do that 40+ hour work week, they are not going to be making those convenience purchases, which always come wrapped in plastic, which might mean not only, convenience purchases for themselves, but for their kids, for their family, for Christmas presents. They're going to be overcompensating for the energy they don't have by buying more stuff for themselves and others. And that more stuff is going to damage the planet and it's going to keep them more broke and more tired. And it's such a cycle. And that cycle, I think that breaking it by using AI one time, if you have to, is worth it. That's the stance I take in my course, and that's why I think that's the case. So, a lot of words. I'm just thinking everything is not what it seems on the surface, and my beef with cancel culture is growing. And I think that, no, I know now, and I see now how many different ways there are to make a difference, to be a good and kind person, to actually take care of the things you say you value, to actually show up for the values and the ethics that you say you support. And being the loudest person on Instagram, even if you're Taylor Swift, is not always the best way to do that. I have a theory that she has a longer term vision in mind, and I hope for this theory. This is like what I would love to believe and see happen, and like all faith in the world restored. Maybe it's a pipe dream, I don't know. But I have this theory that she is playing a longer game with her political statements. I really hope that she's got a bigger picture of like what is happening in the world systemically, and I think that she probably understands that even if she got everybody fired up right now by making one political statement, we don't have a system. We're not ready to cause that kind of disruption. I saw a quote the other day on Instagram. Somebody was saying people who have been, really working as activists on the ground, they understand that you don't burn down the building without first evacuating the people that it harmed. Well, the system, I guess. You don't burn down the system without first evacuating the people that it harmed the most. And that's important. That's important because when our system crumbles, when it falls apart, the people who are most vulnerable are going to be the ones that are impacted the most. Just like how we're seeing right now, we have islands literally going below sea level at this point. They're evacuating an entire country who didn't even contribute to the climate crisis. They were just the most vulnerable. And that's happening because of bigger countries not considering what they were doing, or else knowing and not caring because it wasn't going to affect them. The system is collapsing, and the vulnerable are the first ones to be really hit by it. So when we look at our system that we have now, I think maybe there's wisdom in that. I don't know. I'm learning and I'm watching. But that really resonated with me, and it got me thinking. So thank you for coming to my little tech talk. Now it's just not a day here on YouTube if we don't talk a little bit about decentering men. I'm going to try. There's a loud truck. Hold, please. That wasn't a loud truck. That was a little golf cart trying to go uphill. Okay, anyway. So another thing that I was thinking about this week was decentering men. And I'm not going on a spiel, a long lecture with this one. It's just something that I've been thinking about since I started decentering men more intentionally in my life and really trying to build community and build friendships and that don't center around men. And if you haven't seen me talk about this before and you're curious, you want to hear about like how to decenter men in a relationship, or like even if you're in a relationship, or what it really looks like, I have other videos. I'll try to link them somewhere on the screen up here or in the description. But I've started thinking about like how much I'm a queer girly. I lean much more gay than bisexual, but I wonder if maybe I don't know. I'm not going to have that talk with you guys today. That is all you get for right now. But I'm a queer girly, for sure. What was I saying? Oh yeah, okay. But I am very like straight, cis, het, whatever, presenting, not whatever, the words matter. I'm just struggling with my whole existence after what I just said to you. Anyway, so I've always like fit, I don't know, from other people's perspective, maybe I think I've fit in pretty well. People like look at me and kind of assume that I'm straight, and you know, I'm just like very straight passing, white, could be Christian kind of, you see me, right? You can literally, who would you think I was if you saw me in a coffee shop, you know? Yeah, and I've found that I mean, Taylor did the whole you need to calm down. She's been openly supportive of the LGBTQ community, and at the same time, I've found that the more that I like grow in my decentering men journey, and the more comfortable I get with everything in my life not being about a man or a romantic relationship, it can be actually kind of weird to talk about Taylor sometimes. And it's not because she's like bad or anything, but I've noticed that like when I share about Taylor, I almost like want to pop a little disclaimer on my forehead that's like, I'm not straight. Like I'm a gay Taylor girly. And please tell me if you can relate, because I feel crazy sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. It's just been really interesting to experience what it's like to be a Swiftie and to be more actively and naturally embracing my role in the queer community and having friendships that just don't center around men. It's been so interesting. And I was laughing at myself for it earlier today because like so much of her music is about romantic relationships and men. And that's not a bash at all. Like so much of my life has been about romantic relationships and men. And I'm bashing myself now, but that's different. I'm trying to be less mean to me, but you know. Anyway, one thing that I noticed also about decentering men, side note, but it's important, I wanted to tell you this. One thing I noticed is that decentering men seems to really make you less of a bitch. Like so much less of a jerk. Because, and I don't know, I feel like I've always kind of been like this for the most part. I have my mean girl moments. I had them a lot more when I was younger, but they still happen. But they're different now. Like now my mean girl moments, wait, let me back up. So I think that decentering men makes you less of a jerk as a woman because you stop seeing everyone else as competition, and you also kind of stop feeling bothered by them seeing you as competition. At least I did. That was my experience. And I noticed this in the contrast now between when I try to hang out with someone who really has men centered in their lives, and somebody who doesn't, because I'll hang out with people sometimes, and I've just moved to a new town, so I'm like meeting as many people as I can, trying to make new friends and find my community here. And people will say things that are just like rude. Like they'll be like, wow, that girl was making a stupid face, or her nose looks weird, or like, what was that dress? Or like, wow, how wrinkly are those clothes? Or what is on her feet? Like all those rude comments. And I was never that girl. I was never that kind of mean. That to me is just like, I don't know, like hearing that stuff makes me think like, what is wrong with you? Are you bored? Isn't that exhausting? Are you tired? Like, stop. But I think those are the comments that I hear from people who have men and romance and relationships centered the most. And I hear it from both people, especially in heterosexual couples. I hear it from the man and the woman, usually together, and they pick on women together. And it blows my mind. I've had some interesting experience I might tell you guys about later, where I've had the opportunity to get to know men a lot, and very much more than I would have liked to. And it was really baffling to me how different men were when they were away from their women, and how the same people that they would dump on in front of their girl or in front of the boys were the ones they would fetishize. You know what I'm trying to say? When those same people weren't around and couldn't see them. So that's disgusting and interesting and frustrating to me. But since having this shift, I noticed that I'm much more openly a fan of girls. Like I've always been like, wow, she looks beautiful. Oh my gosh, like I love the colors that she put on. Her style is so unique. Yeah, I don't know. I've never thought something bad about someone's face like that. Not in that way. And I mean, I did see this really, 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 really ugly baby one time. But That is the only time I can think of sometime when I've been like, wow, look at their face. This poor child. He was just making a funny face though. And I mean, it wasn't like I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. But I'm just saying, when you decenter men, I noticed that we really like, we're less happy, like trigger happy, I guess, about tearing women down. And instead, I think we tend to have a more compassionate, caring tone about it, or else we're just like we don't even notice. Like it's boring to tear people down. Why would you do that? That's not pleasant. I think as you become more centered in yourself, which naturally happens as you decenter men, you start to see things differently, to where everything is not a threat, and you don't have to be so critical, and you also don't have as many of your own insecurities to project onto others. I think when you decenter men, you kind of get more centered and grounded in yourself, and you start to learn what's really going on for you and within you in your own head, and you work through some of that. Hopefully, that's what I've done. And yeah, it just makes that dialogue so much kinder, and I think that it really changes the way that you show up in the world. At least it has for me, and it makes it actually easier to make and have female friendships. That said, though, it can also make it more lonely and discouraging, because it does really, 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 really suck to go on a bunch of different friend dates, or even to meet somebody new like naturally, and then to hear them, put down another woman. It's like, it's kind of a nice feeling on one side to like realize, oh, okay, like I'm not someone out there spitting that kind of like bitterness and spite. Good, it feels good to be healed and to realize I don't feel threatened when I see a beautiful woman sitting near me. I'm cheering her on genuinely. But it also it bites to realize that people are not going to like trust you the same way, or like just not want to interact with you the same way if you're not willing to like gossip and participate in that hateful crap. So yeah, I don't know, it's an evolving situation. Tell me what you think, especially if you have at all like started to decenter men in your life, or if you've been considering it and this is one of the reasons why. I'd love to hear that too. Anyway, I think we've done it. I feel like this was a worthy talk for the tea candle here. I forgot to tell you why I feel like their ethics are relevant to all of this. So maybe in another video, or maybe over on my Seaside Fairy Tale Instagram, I will dive into it at some point. They are a lovely company. You could also just go see their Instagram. Let me see if it's actually on here. I don't think it is. No, it's not. But look up Lunar Landings on Instagram if you want to see. You'll literally see it within seconds of looking at their profile why they were relevant today. They're just a wonderful, outspoken brand, and I like the way that they do things sometimes. Yeah, that's all. Okay, thank you for hanging out with me this week. I feel like we're starting to get into a little bit of a groove, and I'm really excited about it. So we'll keep on growing, and if you haven't already heard me say it, I want you to be part of the content. I want you to help me develop my channel and figure out, what we're going to talk about next. I think this is a really exciting time, and this is something I've wanted to do for a long time, so it really means a lot to me that you're here. If you've listened this whole time, thank you for listening to my rambles and giggles and embarrassing things. I'm Vera Lee, and I'll see you next time. Bye.